Faith returns to clear her name from a false murder charge, but how much will she have to pay Colonel Capshaw and the team known as G.A.T.E to get what she needs? We're going to talk about it right here in our review of Faith Returns #1 from Valiant Entertainment. See you in 3. Welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is our review of Faith Returns #1 from Valiant. This issue is written by Jody Houser with art and colors by Aletta Vidal, letters by Marina Leone, and cover art for cover A is drawn by Luca Urbetta. Well, folks, it's been a while since we've seen anything from Faith, and technically speaking, we've never reviewed Faith for this channel, but thankfully, Jody Houser adds a recap, sort of, through narration in the beginning of the issue to explain what happened to Faith prior to now. So we now know that Faith was falsely accused and assigned a murder rap by a group known as the Faithless, an individual of supervillains who had it out for Faith and wanted to take her down. Since then, Faith has acquired a secret identity for a character known as Summer Smith, and she's working for a news outlet or journalism outlet known as Zipline Entertainment. And she's laying low until she can figure out what to do and where to go. That brings us to Faith Returns #1. Faith, in the disguise of Summer Smith, is going about her daily business, and she's approached by the person she used to know as Colonel Capshaw, but who has now recently been promoted to Brigadier General Capshaw, who is the leader of G.A.T.E, which is the government-sponsored agency of superpowered individuals who previously worked with the team known as Unity to deal with strange and unusual threats. G.A.T.E, as we know from the Valiant's #1, which is the other issue that came out at the same week as this issue, is very low on superhero or superpowered individuals. Capshaw has extended an offer to Faith. She says, I will pull some strings, clear your name of the murder rap if you come work for me. Faith, plucky superhero that she is, she says, no, that's not the way I want to do things. I want you to pull some strings and find me the location of the Faithless, which is a supervillain team that framed me. And when you do that, I will capture them. I will bring them in and I will clear my name. Then in exchange, I will come work for you. So that way I can be a hero for you, but now have a restored reputation. Capshaw agrees, and she gives her the first lead after a little bit of research and digging, and that lead takes her to Murder Mouse, aka Jeff, who's working in a Las Vegas nightclub as a magician, way off the main strip. She enlists Archer and Armstrong to come and lend her a hand and say, hey, I'm about to confront Jeff. I need help. If I can get all the faithless rounded up, they'll clear my name. You promised you would help me. When Archer tries to back out a little bit, he said, you promised you'd help me if I ever needed help, and I'm asking for help. So I need you to hop to lickety-split. They agree. Archer and Armstrong and Faith head to Vegas. They find Jeff, and he says, well, I'm not in the villain business anymore. Just leave me alone. I just want to do my time and reestablish my career as a magician and hopefully gain some legitimacy. But I'm also not going to narc on my friends because I don't do my former allies like that, and I don't want to get in trouble. Faith starts to believe that maybe she's now come to a dead end. Then suddenly, one of the artifacts that Jeff has in his chest of stuff suddenly unleashes a demon that springs to life into the nightclub and starts committing harry-carry and havoc and all kinds of chaos and mayhem. Faith changes into her superhero costume, first time in a very long time. She leaps to action. There's a scuffle. She uses her superpowers to trap the demon in a bubble, at least temporarily. Jeff figures out how to attach a demon trapping little vial or a magic glass jar, if you will, to a crossbow. He shoots the demon and it sucks the demon in, and the demon is captured. And Jeff now has a change of heart and says, well, you helped me stop this demon, even though it's my fault, even though there was nothing in it for you, so I'm going to help you. I'm not in the racket anymore, but here is this magical teleportation jewel, and when you click your heels 3 times and say, let's go, it's going to take you to the location of the other members of the Faithless, and then you can do your thing. Let's talk about the character work. Right, wrong, or indifferent, Faith is a nerdy, geeky type of character. She will commonly and often make sci-fi and fantasy type references just in her manner of dialogue and speech, much to the annoyance of people around her. Hauser does that here, not over the top and overly so, but she definitely does it enough that it will say, "Oh boy, here's somebody that you would find basically walking around a sci-fi convention all day long." You get Star Trek references from multiple shows. You get Doctor Who references. You get all kinds of stuff going on where Faith just sort of chimes in to try to infuse her knowledge of geekdom and geek culture into her conversations. And for somebody who appreciates that stuff, it hits. Maybe for the rest of the characters in the story, not so much. But if the idea was to present Faith as that sort of nerd geek culture type of character, Hauser nails it. This comic has two rough spots or weak spots. One of them is the art. There are some preview pages in the review. Oh, by the way, if you want to read the full review, the link is down in the description. The preview pages look considerably better than the vast majority of the comic. The inks are rough. They're blotchy. They're thick. They're uneven. It just doesn't look great. It looks unpolished in several spots. Plus, the backgrounds are strongly lacking. Except for maybe a couple scenes here and there, most of the backgrounds are just a colored wall with some texture or some gradients. There's almost no strong background work in this issue at all. In addition to that, surprisingly, the lettering is not great, at least in the first half of the comic, where it's strongly dependent on Faith's narration, where it's just caption boxes. The lettering choice is so thick, the letters start to bleed into each other and it makes it hard to read. So even though the preview pages, generally speaking, look okay, the rest of the comic, not nearly as good. And honestly, it looks like it was an indie comic on a shoestring budget. Let's move over to pacing and structure. So Hauser's pacing is solid to very good. It moves well, the scenes transition well, the individual scenes are pretty much okay. So there's no problem with the reading and the flow. The comic moves exactly the way it's supposed to. It keeps you engaged with the energy level and the speed, and it reads like a standard comic, so there's no issue there. The plot, however, is where we have the second weak point of this issue. Things happen just for the sake of happening without a lot of setup or explanation or what's going on. Colonel Capshaw, now Brigadier General Capshaw, just shows up out of nowhere, makes this offer. Okay, you can kind of get that, and it sort of ties to the Valiants, but there's no setup to where Capshaw's been or why she needs heroes for G.A.T.E. When they find Jeff, aka Murder Mouse, his situation makes sense as far as he's sort of retired from the villain game. He's in therapy and all the things that you would expect from somebody who's just trying to get away from being a villain. But the demon just sort of shows up out of nowhere. Why would Jeff have an artifact that contains a demon in this chest of stuff in his dressing room? Why would the demon all of a sudden, without rhyme or reason, just suddenly spring to life? Why did Hauser bring in Archer and Armstrong to help Faith when effectively they do nothing in this issue? Archer gets a few kicks in on the demon, but that's about it. For everything else, they do nothing. Their presence there literally is unpurposeful. There's no reason for them to be there. So the plot structure, the bones of the story make sense. You got to give Faith, for lack of a better term, a redemption arc, even though technically speaking she's been framed for murder. She didn't really commit the murder, but all the details and the flesh around those bones is just really spotty, uneven, and full of holes that don't make any sense. Let's talk a minute about the themes and what is the kind of the message of the story. Underneath all of the plot structure and the back and forth and what Faith is doing, the message that seems to be coming across in a very roundabout, loose way is Faith taking control of her life and fixing what's wrong on her terms. Capshaw makes an offer, Faith rejects it in favor of a counter offer that works in Faith's favor. Faith needs some help from Archer and Armstrong. She gets some humming and hawing, and she takes them to task for not making good on their promises. It's all about taking control and, I won't say forcing people to do what you want, but holding people accountable for what they should be doing to get what you want. And in a nice way, Faith is basically being forceful. I won't go so far as saying girl boss, but you kind of get that flavor and tone, but in a nice way. we take a step back and look at the bigger picture of Faith and where this fits into the broader Valiant universe, the introduction of Capshaw and the inclusion of Archer and Armstrong heavily imply that they're all moving together towards some larger goal. We know from Alien Books and Valiant Entertainment that they're on the quote-unquote the road to resurgence, which is this sort of big coming together and reinvigoration of all the titles. This issues, it seems to imply that now Faith and Archer and Armstrong will now be included in with G.A.T.E, which is one of the central premises or central ideas from the Valiant's #1, which came out the same week this issue came out. So it feels like they're trying to put all the pieces together and give them an excuse to all start working together. This issue does exactly that. The way he does it may be clunky, but at least he gets the job done. So final thoughts. What do we think about Faith Returns #1 from Valiant Entertainment? Faith's journey makes sense, and it gives her an opportunity to grow as a character and to take agency over her life to clear her name, which is great. The bones of the plot make sense, and Faith's personality seems to be relatively consistent with the way we've known Faith, even though we haven't seen her in a very long time. However, the downside is the details are in the plot around that basic structure are full of conveniences, things that just sort of happen out of nowhere just because they needed to happen because the script says so, and the art is unfortunately subpar. Therefore, we're going to give Faith Returns #1 from Valiant Entertainment a 5.5 out of 10. We're really hoping to see something good to great coming out of this. Unfortunately, we didn't get it. So, what do you think about Faith returning? Are you looking forward to the road to resurgence and all the characters coming together, or do you feel like the Valiant ship has sort of passed and there's, beating a dead horse? I want to know your thoughts. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notification. And if you like reviews just like this one, please stay tuned through the outro.